Hey there, welcome to the channel. Now I know what you're going to say. Nostalgic whiz, didn't you already talk about Halo before? Of course I did, but I was talking more about the development of an entire franchise that got us to Halo Infinite, including the Paramount Plus TV series. Today I wanted to focus on the iconic trilogy that made Halo so incredible in the first place. I understand Halo 3 ODST and Halo Reach are masterclasses developed by Bungie. While the trilogy focused more on their story, Halo Reach and ODST had their own apart from the trilogy in different perspectives in the timeline. I also explained in my previous video the development crunch Bungie had faced when creating each game. Today I wanted to dive deeper into the development process and what ideas were used while some were scrapped altogether for the sake of the release date. So I'll do my best to break down these excellent games. Since there are interviews that many fans and YouTubers got the opportunity to host, there is a lot of interesting new information about Halo's development that got shown from the previous Bungie developers that worked on these games, and some insightful details that Halo composer Marty O'Donnell got to share with everyone. Before I begin, consider subscribing to the channel as it can help support my work and make more videos for you all. Let's get started. I mentioned this in my last video, but I'll summarize it as best I can. During the late 90s, before the idea of Halo, Bungie was a small team that made PC games for the Macintosh and Microsoft Windows. In 97, Bungie worked for Apple while developing prototypes for Halo, codenamed Monkey Nuts and Blam. First, it was turned into a real-time strategy game, using an over-the-head view from a third-person's perspective. It got scrapped. The second phase used the third-person view and explored more of a hollow ring planet with military weapons. The concept of the ring world stayed with them and incorporated a sci-fi style with aliens to fight. Steve Jobs admired Bungie's work and wanted them to help support the new Macintosh with their game, then present it to Macworld with everyone going nuts for it. Unfortunately, Bungie needed more money at the time, now in need of help hoping they can finish the game. Bill Gates and Microsoft entered the scene and created their first gaming console, the Xbox, and they now needed games for the lineup. In 2000, Microsoft bought Bungie, and it was soon time to complete Halo and make it into a first-person shooter. It took 9 months to complete, but they made an excellent game. Halo Combat Evolved was not only Microsoft's best game ever to be made, but it also created an impression that continues to be loved by the players who first experienced this classic title. The core gameplay brings such a fun and entertaining replayability that players never expected, challenging enemies, an intriguing story, and timeless memorable characters. This, of course, brings me to one of the best things about the game, the campaign. I have a confession to make. I had never played a Halo game when they were first released. Well, because I was born the year this game came out. So I never got to experience the fun everyone was having when Halo hit the scene. As I got older, my family would only allow me to play Nintendo games, which were all fun, but I was still too young to be considered mature enough to play Halo games, which is also why I suck at FPS games. But that never stopped me from wanting to know what this game was all about, and I never knew there was so much hype around this franchise. I was this oblivious kid playing Mario Galaxy. So when I turned around 19, I saw the teaser for Halo Infinite. I was confused since I didn't know what this game was about. So I finally decided to play each game, starting with Halo CE. The campaign is a masterpiece. How could I have missed this? I wasn't sure what to expect. I was astonished by the amount of space and exploration in this game. Felt like I was in a movie, fighting and learning more about this floating disk planet. This game is phenomenal. The creativity and world building still shock me, and I feel like a kid discovering a new world I want to learn about. The enemies called the Covenant are one of the most brutal armies I've ever faced while being unintentionally or intentionally funny. The same could be said about this new threat you encounter on the ring, the Flood. They are no pushovers when they try to kill you. These virus-infected zombies are a part of a bigger narrative than before. The way they're introduced is genius. Bungie builds up this reveal to make you question what happened here. Why are the aliens running? What's going on? You acquire footage of what happened to your squad, then boom, you're in trouble. Now, seeing this for the first time, I almost wet my pants. Simultaneously, I was impressed just by that reveal alone, and it was a lot of fun. This whole game encourages you to think outside the box as you strategize your next move. If you get careless, then you're out for the count. Enemies will also find a way to flank you or hide from your line of sight, which becomes a stressful challenge to avoid, attack, or outsmart them. The levels are so fun to explore and introduce these moments of locating certain areas and objectives while fighting or watching a fight unfold before you. The sandbox is fun to explore, and having to board a Covenant ship to rescue Captain Keyes was exhilarating. You also get to enjoy the atmosphere or the amount of detail in these levels and see more of the Covenant technology, the ring and highly advanced structures, the murky swamps that are filled with horror as you discover the Flood, and the change in the environment and the weather due to how the ring was created while feeling ancient. If you take the time to move around, you'll be rewarded with extra weapons, ammo, and medkits for finding it. You can also see a couple of soldiers that didn't make it out of the fight, telling you a particular story, making you wonder what happened over time. Weapons in this game pack such a punch as you handle your primary assault rifle, magnum, and sniper and try the enemy's weapons for a spin. It's always a blast to face each opponent with its strengths and weaknesses. For your health, you carry an overshield that can run out as you take damage and recharge when you take cover. A genius mechanic from the developers, even when they change it over time. The vehicles are fun to use, and bringing Marines on board to drive or fire their weapons at the enemy is a blast. The Warthog and the Ghost are my favorites since they are fast and have powerful weapons to fend off your enemies. The Banshees are also superb, considering you get to travel high in the sky. Halo CE gets you straight to the point. You start on a ship called the Pillar of Autumn, commanded by Captain Jacob Keyes, as his crew had just left their planet, Reach, and after it had been glassed by an alien army known as the Covenant. We're also introduced to our AI companion, Cortana, as she was created for war and stopping the Covenant and aiding our protagonist that we get to play as, Master Chief, a green armored super soldier called a Spartan. Captain Keyes then discovers a strange ring in space and has no idea what it is. The Covenant infiltrates the ship, and Captain Keyes authorizes his crew to wake Chief up from cryosleep and stop the threat. Once he's up, the action begins. Soon we're outmatched by the sheer amount of numbers in the Covenant, now planning to escape and reach the ring planet. This is my favorite part. The screen fades to white. As everything comes into view, you discover you're the only one who survived the crash landing. You exit the escape pod and find yourself in an unknown location on the ring planet. Cue the music. You look around and see a beautiful view of what looks to be the ring in all of its glory. As you take in the environment, your AI companion Cortana alerts you of enemy threats arriving. It's time to move and find survivors you can rescue as you learn more about this hollow ring planet. Throughout the game, you continue to fight through thick and thin, seeing different biomes and fighting a new threat called the Flood. And then you're met with this small orb named 343 Guilty Sparks, created by ancient beings called the Forerunners. It is also a monitor or caretaker of the ring, also known as Installation 4. He is assigned a protocol against the Flood when a human, or as he calls them, Reclaimers, arrives to activate the Halo. Cortana then gets access to all the information on Halo and learns that it's a weapon designed to kill all living things to stop the Flood. So now we have to stop the ring from ever activating, while looking cool and saving the universe. I enjoyed this game for so many reasons, but it does start to get even better with its sequel.
Are you sure about that?
After Halo CE's release, it became an enormous success, and it was time for Bungie to create its sequel. Bungie had an ambitious plan to create the best Halo game to surpass CE in numerous ways. The passionate team wanted this to feel like the definitive way to play Halo in this upcoming sequel. They wanted to develop a story with bigger lore, building these characters, giving their motivations a purpose, and encompassing it into one game. Bungie's head writer Joseph Staten would create a story rivaling cinematic films on top of having such a talented team of people coding the game, level designing, and composing it, making this journey for the player to experience like they never had before in a Halo game, or any FPS in the gaming industry. Bungie then went to work for Halo 2's demo in 2003 to show off at E3. To make it more impressive, they used a new stencil style for the graphics engine to make the game look even better. While the sneak peek of the game was phenomenal, it didn't work out for the graphics engine, and it couldn't handle well on the original Xbox. As a matter of speaking, everything they hoped to achieve just by the demo they made didn't seem possible for the team to create. Building something this massive into an entire game wouldn't be entirely feasible. So they scrapped the entire demo and started from scratch to create the game from the ground up, while having to abandon the ideas they wanted from the demo and move on to finding a way to make the sequel happen somehow. Because of their deadline to complete the game, they had to cut most of the new mechanics and ideas from before, while the rest would be rushed and shipped entirely. Let's not forget they also had to add multiplayer for their latest Xbox Live feature, alongside Halo 2, and somehow surpass Halo CE. It was a brutal development cycle for the team at Bungie, and they had to finish the game in a year and a half. So employees would head to work early in the morning and stay until midnight every day, month to month, to make progress for the game. It created health issues for the team and interpersonal ones too. The team's crunch was terrible, and they would barely see their significant other getting the game shipped and ready for release. The team shared many of these experiences, and composer Marty O'Donnell expressed his opinions on the events and how awful it truly felt.
Sometimes people think that, oh, all Bungie wanted to do, all the folks that worked on Halo 1, all we wanted to do was do something new, and Microsoft forced us to do Halo 2 and 3. That's just not true at all. We absolutely wanted to do Halo 2. We absolutely wanted to do Halo 3. There were a series of circumstances during the development of Halo 2 where some severe missteps were made, especially technically, that had to do with stencil shadows and the entire engine that was built in order for that to work. It brought us all really closer together. It taught us a bunch of lessons. We're still proud of what we did. It probably did sort of destroy some people, at least for a while. It probably broke some relationships, personal and work relationships that needed healing. And I think most of those did get healing. Some of them didn't. It should never happen. It felt like we were prisoners and we had no choice, but we took it upon ourselves to do an amazing thing, and we're proud.
Eventually, the game would be released, and Bungie would finish Halo 2 following their roadmap to getting the game in stable order while removing most of the plans they originally wanted. Halo 2 would hit shelves on November 9th, 2004. Massive lines formed for the game's launch, and media news started covering Halo 2 and its blockbuster release that surpassed movie sales. Due to the crunch that Bungie endured, they released the game's campaign with a different ending. During the difficult development period, Bungie wanted this Halo game to be their last, but we all know that never happened. The story was rewritten to save time, and they incorporated different elements that never happened in the game. Some characters had different purposes or motives that would have changed how the game would be played. Bungie had a story, but changed it due to time constraints. Another fascinating moment from O'Donnell was the time and work put into the story and level designs. They had so many concept plans and ideas they wanted to bring to the sequel. However, the results speak for themselves. Missions were shorter, exciting levels were scrapped, and players today would revisit the game finding missing assets and scrapped levels either unfinished or completed, then ultimately cut from the final release. After all this, the story was still epic, which is crazy to believe since a team like Bungie could still make a successful game with the amount of time and stress on their hands. This only proves that these people are incredibly talented. They made another masterpiece even when all was said and done. The campaign follows the events after Halo CE, and now we have a new perspective on the Covenant. We finally learn more about the enemy we face, but with a twist. As we still play throughout this game, we begin to see another side of the Covenant and their religion than ever before. Meanwhile, Master Chief and the rest of the UNSC are simultaneously fighting against the Covenant while locating another Halo and need to destroy it or stop it from activating. It also brings a layer of our new character, the Arbiter. Okay, spoiler alerts if you still haven't played this game, which you should, because I don't know why you wouldn't have. I nearly had a heart attack when I played this game. You get to play as the Arbiter. And I knew you could play as an elite in multiplayer, but I was a dummy for not realizing you could play as the Arbiter. The Arbiter in this game is best described by Bungie as an equal to Master Chief, and I can agree with that since he has such an epic voice.
They called it the Pillar of Autumn. I am already dead. The cable. I'm going to cut it. Who has taught you these lies?
Our character Salvatori was once a supreme commander that led an armada against the humans. His next job was taking out the Pillar of Autumn and the Master Chief while protecting the Halo Ring, except he failed. He then gets put on trial for his failures and punished by leaving a terrible mark. However, the prophets still see him as valuable, so they anoint him the rank the Arbiter, then give him a task to take out a heretic that speaks against their religion, the Great Journey, and believes it's a false prophecy. So the Arbiter accepts and joins a squad to find the heretic and kill him, oblivious to the actual plans the prophets have, and later on gets betrayed. Simultaneously, Master Chief and Cortana seek a way to stop the Covenant, assassinate a prophet, and destroy the ring, except both our characters get a visit from an old friend. Then we meet the Gravemind. Remember the Flood? Yeah, this is the guy doing all the work. He tries to make a deal with the Master Chief and the Arbiter, as it wants to stop the ring from activating. The Arbiter doesn't trust it, but Chief was already ahead of the game to do it. Then the Gravemind sends them both to different locations to set things right. So both the Arbiter and his brother of elites are later betrayed and cast aside, imprisoned, and killed for standing in the way of the Great Journey. The Brutes form a new security and a new army that replaces the elites to serve the prophets. Soon the Arbiter begins to understand the true intention of the Covenant. How the prophets are borderline insane, thinking that their form of salvation is getting obliterated to serve a prophecy. Then we play as the Arbiter and Master Chief one last time, and then we have ourselves at the end of the game. This was one of the best stories and memorable games that felt so incredible. The game was praised as a fantastic experience with the new storytelling, more characters, and fun levels to make you feel awesome. The only thing I can understand was the cliffhanger ending that was difficult to digest at the time of the game's release. It upset some players, but I could see they enjoyed the game and didn't want it to end this way. Thankfully it didn't have to, and Bungie was going to work on Halo 3, not making the same mistake for their development crunch. The game itself is basically Halo more evolved than before, adding new weapons to the game and giving you the ability to wield 2 weapons. Sign me up! You can hijack vehicles and switch and alternate weapons between Marines and Elites. You can use the energy sword and instantly kill your opponents. As the Arbiter, you're given a limited active camo to pull off stealth attacks and hide from enemies you encounter. The characters are designed with much more detail and fluid movement than the first, seeing as Bungie found a way to utilize the console's capabilities. The levels look fantastic. Even with their limited time for the game, some missions were altered to be linear, although it does have new areas and beautiful scenery than having to backtrack in Halo CE. The game's difficulty is broken. Before you start the game, you're given an option of difficulty that changes the gameplay of enemies, dialogue, and weapons around levels. The problem with Halo 2's legendary difficulty compared to CE was overkill. It was incredibly challenging for players to overcome while getting sniped, outmatched by elites and brutes, and overall unbalanced. The levels are much different from one another and have you explore Earth and New Mombasa with its iconic moments and fights. Plus, you get to fight in space. All of it would soon change for their sequel in the Trilogy. Bungie was back at the drawing board on their next Halo game, so they had to focus on Halo 3's development for the upcoming Xbox 360. It was time to finish the fight, and Bungie had more opportunities to adapt their previous ideas to Halo 3 and the Xbox 360's high-quality features. The following changes were not having head writer Joe Staten come back to write the story for the game and Bungie co-founder Jason Jones to lead the project. So it was up to the new management to pick up the pieces from the previous Halo 2 story and build it into a new game. It was a challenge to create a new game that had to conclude the Halo story, with the team relearning the new engine's capabilities, incorporating more ideas and modes for multiplayer that would surpass both entries. The art direction and the number of designs in the magnificent scenery would change, while still looking and acting like Halo. The marketing for this game still makes me adore the reason this was the best era of Halo. When I saw that trailer for Believe, I felt things I never thought I would have ever felt watching it. It was like watching a war documentary that changed many veterans who fought alongside Master Chief. The CGI trailer shows off a realistic look of Master Chief using a shield and landing towards brutes, which was so cool. Then the Halo short film Landfall. Microsoft had so many opportunities to make more of this into a movie and blew it. It was so good. In the end, Bungie accomplished this feat and created the best Halo experience ever to be made for the brand new Xbox 360, bringing online multiplayer to a new level of fun and enjoyment, including this new mode called Forge, creating your own levels to share with the community, and theater mode to rewatch your best moments from previous matches. Another massive sale for the game's launch was more significant than before, and so many fans were just as excited to play Halo 3. In terms of the campaign, it did a pretty good job. While I found playing this super fun with my friend on Legendary, it brought many new and fresh ideas that made the experience excellent and hilarious. However, Halo 3's story felt much shorter and didn't precisely surpass much of Halo 2's story. It wasn't a terrible narrative, but it was alright. It was simply to bring the Master Chief and the Arbiter together and finish the fight as intended. The only thing that fell off was the characters' involvement in this third installment. That rhymed. The characters were introduced and their involvement in Halo 2 brought a lot of iconic moments to the franchise. They didn't have a lot of growth or more screen time in Halo 3, with everyone taking the back seat, including the Arbiter. If you had a second player as you played the campaign, player 1 would control the Chief and player 2 the Arbiter, and they both would appear in the same cutscene but with very little dialogue. It was straightforward and to the point with this game, and most of the gameplay would have some banter or moments that progressed the story. While most loved the game, the campaign appeared acceptable in some areas while having incredible moments I adore and still find so thrilling. The Arbiter completes his story arc, watching these beloved characters in their last moments of sacrifice and saving everyone, while having a sentimental ending to such a great trilogy that Bungie offered us. The Prophet of Truth was a crazy one-sided character throughout this story, which isn't much to go on about since I already said before, this is a straightforward game. The Flood returns and gives us a hard time, yet gives us an unreal moment where they were on our side, then back to killing us again. But it allows us to finally see these two characters work together and get the job done. I can safely say this is Halo, and the game that continues to become an awestruck experience. While the campaign will give you a vast map like with Halo CE, with many enemies to take down and brand new and returning weapons to add to the fun, dual wielding returns and new features and gear are given to the player to progress each level. The vehicles are powerful in this game, and using these new aircrafts made the moments so much more enjoyable and somewhat satisfying. The new scripted cutscenes are a genius idea. Even when you skip the dialogue, it still plays out as you drop in. The scarabs are the best boss battles to be used in this game, while you have elites joining the fight alongside humans, which I never thought would happen. It felt so sublime and much better with this game's music, which I'll get into later. The legendary difficulty wasn't as brutal as before, thank God for that. The flood level was one of the craziest ones that reminded me of the library from Halo CE, while the entire game had so many unique and gorgeous visuals to complement the gameplay. Again, this was a fun new way of storytelling that separated itself from the first two games, and still keeps you on your feet while wailing on enemies with a giant hammer. Completing this game warmed my heart, as it felt like an end to such a remarkable trilogy. Having a character that people grew up with and seeing the adventure, the battles, and the cast of characters, the losses, and the epic scenes unfold will live on in history as one of gaming's best trilogies ever to be created. As for the soundtrack of these games, whew, I know. And if you watched my videos before, I'm gonna gush a little longer. Welcome to my channel. The soundtrack is godlike. The intro alone sets the bar for a game that continues to give me goosebumps every time I hear the opening theme. A game that uses great leitmotifs in certain areas to set the atmosphere for what you're getting into. The way it starts with the monk chants and builds up, introducing you to Halo. The excitement and adrenaline rush as you encounter enemies in different gunfights. When Marty O'Donnell was told the emotions that this game should feel while working on the soundtrack, it was to be mysterious, epic, and ancient. What would happen next would change FPS games forever. No other game at the time had done this, but Halo became the one to set the story and bring the music to fit with it, assessing not just the game or just a random piece, but the location of the ring planet. The ancient weapon that we discover, it's the whole point of the game, and it's what the music points out to us. Even in game, when anyone mentions Halo or says its name, that motif enhances that point. It's why ODST doesn't have that theme when you play the game. Well, Reach does give a subtle reference to it, but you see where the location is used to a point and show us what this game is about. Plus, the slow and melodic wonder as you explore the Halo ring. Stealth sections make you want to vibe as you shoot down more enemies. When you fight alongside Marines, you hear the intense drums and brass. You hear the high-pitched sound and abnormal beats of the drums, revealing the flood is near and ready to attack. It's like horror elements to this game. Once again, the game's soundtrack is one of the best to be composed. Marty O'Donnell and Michael Salvatori are geniuses behind your childhood that remind you of the game you played when you picked up that controller. Playing Xbox Live with your friends, celebrating after each victory, trash talking the other players after a defeat. It was all thanks to these two masterminds just by hearing this one note. You immediately knew what this is. Halo 2 soundtrack took me by surprise. I didn't expect Steve Vai, Nile Rodgers, Incubus, Breaking Benjamin, and Hoobastank to collaborate with O'Donnell and Salvatori on this game. These were the 2000s bands, and they made peak music for Halo. The composers didn't expect this either, yet having these artists come together and create something unique and remarkable as you played the game was incredible. It definitely felt like a movie if you brought different musicians to make music for your work. This shows the game's impact on many people, including the music. The tone and theme definitely changed Halo, but it wasn't just all the prog, hard rock, and techno that changed the game's theme. O'Donnell would purposefully alter the Halo theme song as you encountered a new ring, letting the players know this ring differs from the one we first saw in Halo CE. Creating this new leitmotif invites you to discover more about this Halo ring and how it sets itself apart from Halo CE to Halo 2. As for Halo 3, the music boldly adds a piano to this rendition of the Halo theme in an epic and moving way. The leitmotifs make the feeling of playing this game so good, and it shows that with each game, as they get better and with a bigger budget, it allowed Marty to add an actual orchestra to compose his previous tracks. The Warthog run is one of the most perfect scores to ever to be composed when you reach the game's final act. Halo 2 cut its version, but Halo 3 found a way to redeem that segment like everything these 3 games led to was this final moment. The same with Master Chief as he rescues Cortana. These moments will always be iconic, especially when you hear this score like it's all coming full circle.
You found me.
Marty best describes these moments as emotional equity, when we relate to a person's emotions or the character's intense feelings while being equally fair. Basically summarizing all that I just explained. And Marty is truly a legend, and I will continue to love his work for everyone, myself included, in these games. The Halo franchise has changed since then. After Halo Reach, Bungie would depart and Microsoft would create 343 Industries to continue the franchise. I already mentioned my childhood growing up and not being able to experience the glorious Halo days when Bungie developed them. I was unaware of what the Halo community was like, and I didn't know about the massive change until I started playing the original games. Then I played Halo 4. I could tell the gameplay felt different from Bungie's work, and when 343 was in charge of developing these games, I noticed how they were experiencing trouble with the continuation of Halo, and they had a lot of different ideas about Master Chief and the problem with executing it. The Master Chief collection seemed promising until it wasn't, and many patches had to be put into the game, while including Halo CE to Halo 3 and adding ODST, Reach, and Halo 4. The only anniversary releases we got was for Halo CE and Halo 2. CE Anniversary was developed by Saber Interactive as they could use the same geometry layout as CE's original engine and merge it with the new one they built over it. It was an exciting idea where you could switch between graphics, but a few things needed to be improved in geometry design and object placements. The cutscenes would also be made with motion capture. Saber would return to do Halo 2 Anniversary and apply the same features just like CE, except for the cutscenes. Instead, they were done by Blur Studios, and Jesus Christ, it looks magnificent. Now it looks like a movie. As for Halo Guardians, I didn't play it, but I heard a lot of upsetting things about it. I got a chance to play Halo Infinite, and it's a lot of fun. The campaign was a great experience, but I wish there was more for the story, or at least the characters that all go missing after Halo Guardians. And the music for it is actually really good. I'll have to make a separate video on that soon. While 343 has been working on Halo Infinite and its seasonal online multiplayer without including Forge and stable working theater mode, unless they were late adding updates and content to the game, as of recording this, but the news was unfortunate as many employees got laid off and departed from 343 and the work on Halo. It's regrettable to see these events unfold. However, there isn't much I can add to it as many people have already contributed to the news. As for Halo, it's still walking this path that we won't know where it'll take us. Again, so much has happened. I understand there have been different kinds of divisions among the fanbase. As for me, I just wanted to express my thoughts and experience about this franchise that gave me such a fantastic experience. The journey and understanding of why the Halo trilogy became such an iconic masterpiece in the gaming industry. I couldn't hit all of the significant points about the games and the multiplayer since I was too young to play the game, and I still suck. I can at least say that the community felt impacted by the amount of passion brought from a title that they grew up with in their homes as unforgettable. What was your experience playing these games? Did you feel as impacted by this game as I did? Let me know. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing for more and help support the channel. Stay safe and have a great day.